Hey, I'm Skadi, co-owner of Move to Impact, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of our learnings today here from our B Corp steps we're doing with our clients. We worked previously with a lot of clients in like small from like small startups to medium-sized companies to like bigger companies who want to become B Corp. We are exciting to tell you more about our 3 packages. We got a lot of questions from our classic package, which we worked with the last 1.5 years, that clients would love to have a little bit just the tools, and also on the part of just having like an extended version of it. So therefore we are coming out now with the 3 packages we launched, and I'm excited to share them with you, but also especially like share some more learnings for you guys. So there we go, and here we go. So the agenda for today is indeed like giving you an overview of the B Corp process overview, like, hey, what are the steps in like becoming a B Corp and how can you walk through it? Then learning and challenges in these steps. So I walk you through it a little bit more. Then there's three strategies from us to solve it. Then I show you our unique and own-made prioritization tool. So it's a really data-driven way we are approaching it. And I will answer your questions. So if you have any questions during the session, just raise your hand basically with the little icon so I can answer them in the meanwhile. Otherwise, afterwards, there will be definitely time to go through it as well. Let's dive into it. So how can you become a B Corp? A B Corp is definitely, to become a B Corp is definitely a challenging process. It's a certification process from a third party, from B Labs. It's an American audit company. And in America, it's really like a form from a company. So like as in the Netherlands, it's BV. They have really as a token, basically as a company, form really the B Corp. And in this certification process, you at least have to reach 80 points from 200, which you are able to reach. Within this B impact assessment, which you have to fill in order to become it, it's you have to go through this online questionnaire to answer these questions and have to go through these 5 topics. This is workers, community, environment, governance, and customers. So this BIA is around like 250 questions, and you have to answer it online. So it's quite challenging to go through it, and I show you a little bit more on like what the challenges and the learnings are from that. After that, you go into like a validation interview, basically an audit interview, where they check whether what you filled in is actually right and whether you have evidence for all of that. But before you are able to get into the interview, there is a waiting line from, at the moment, 9 to 12 months. So that's quite extended waiting period. So we have some tips and tricks as well for you to how to handle this waiting line. The B Corp declaration of interdependency, that's definitely then the next step. So basically that you sign that you really are a B Corp. A B Corp is a transparent organization who wants to do good and wants to show and measure basically their impact to their stakeholders. And they will review you every 3 years. So they will also like update all the B Corp criteria so that you can be absolutely up to date in this process and with your sustainability part. what we definitely say, B Corp is an important part and can definitely add a lot of value to your process of becoming a sustainable organization. It's definitely a step and creates a community, and you belong then to the community. For example, in the Netherlands, at Albert Heijn for all food products, they have like a own shelf to show and showcase basically the sustainable the sustainable products. So that's definitely like an extra push for these organizations also to work together, and also for customers and clients to see that it's important to become sustainable. Further, to see directly the general learnings before diving into the process, because like companies come to us and ask us to like, yeah, what do we have to know before, or how do we have to prepare, and what are the parts? So the general learnings before starting the process is always that we say like, know your company's legal structure, strategy, and vision, which means the legal structure is important for you to dive into the B Corp process, because it can influence on how much points or how much influence you can have on reaching these B Corp points. For example, if you are a part of a group or a holding, it's important to like see who's the owner and who has the biggest shares basically in the company, because B Corp will look and will have a closer look on how who is basically pulling the strings and has the impact basically in your company, and can influence these parts. So for example, if a bigger company has the biggest shares in your organization, which actually does like bad things or has a big negative footprint, and is not supporting it, and your B Corp process and is not willing to support you in it, it can be challenging for you to become a B Corp, or even impossible. So it's important that you know your legal structure, but also the strategy and vision, that it's possible, and that we are coming directly to the next step, that your C-level has to be on board. Like the CEO, CTO, CFO, they have to like say like, okay, we understand it and want to support this process, because you need your information, and it needs to be integrated within the strategy and the vision of the company, because it's a process which not only just is like ticking boxes, but really gets like or is needed for more information. So, and they definitely need more information beforehand if they're not already on board. The third part is like, be honest with your struggles of your company, because then they can be incorporated. You can just see these struggles as like opportunities, and really try to engage them and try to connect them with becoming a B Corp. For example, if you're a consultancy and you're flying a lot, how can you use other incentives or other challenges to like make this flying go a little bit smaller, or knowing that you have to do more on other parts, but this flying and going places is not going to go away. So therefore, be honest with it, and then you can work with it and can see where you can have the most impact. You cannot know everything as a sustainability manager. A lot of sustainability managers like think like, oh yes, I can just do it and it's completely fine and I can handle it. This assessment is quite challenging to understand also in the wording, so it's completely fine. Just be honest with it, because sometimes we have it also that sustainability managers say like, hey, we know it and it's completely fine, and hold back with their questions. No, just ask all your questions. Don't assume anything, just ask it, because there are like some tricks and challenges basically in the questions of the B impact assessment. And the other part is Google is your best friend, especially for actions and how to move forward. Since in each country there are different legal things, or in cities, different structures about waste management or water management, it's important to like just Google it really quickly and see where your city is at, and to see maybe actions and other parts on how to innovate and create actions for your company. So it's really like understand where everything is and what easy steps you already can take beforehand to like Google it, and what you don't understand, just be honest about it and just share it with us or other people who can support you in this process. Challenges in becoming a B Corp. Before like moving further, I want to check the chat if there are already some questions in that, and whether you guys already have a question on the first part, which I just presented on the learnings beforehand, or do you have any questions on the before part, before stepping into the B Corp journey? See a lot of people introducing themselves. Nice to have you here, and nice to see your introductions. Okay, so I see no questions so far. So I'm going further for the challenges in becoming a B Corp. So we talked about a B impact assessment, which is these like 250 questions which have to be filled in online. And the first part, which is challenging, is definitely the understanding of it, because what is the process a little bit? So we talked about it just now to give you a better understanding that these are like the 4 steps with the impact assessment, with the interview, with the signing, and also with the 3-year recertification. But yeah, definitely it's a challenge also on like, what are the questions? How can you interpret the questions of the B impact assessment, and where and how can you get the information? The information is definitely important to know where to pick up in that sense. We have, for example, like an overview of like for which department, where you can get specific parts of information from these 5 areas, from the governance, workers, community, all these elements. There we have like different overviews, so we could support you with that. But that's definitely a challenging part, and all comes a little bit down to it. Did we try to tell companies or say them, hey, try to put together ambassadors for the 5 different topics, so that you have a little bit like extra people in your company that already create a bigger information SharePoint basically, and also can be asked about these questions, so that not only one person has to answer all these questions, but that it's divided by 5, because then it's just like 30 or 40 questions per person, and that's easier to handle than just by yourself. Then the scoring of the B impact assessment, since you can get 80 points, and it's quite challenging to get to these 80 points, it's important to know where you can get the most points and the least points. So there we created a unique data tool that you can track your points and can see where you can prioritize which tasks you should do first and least, so that you can get the most points basically on that. So that's challenging to see within the B impact assessment, but it's definitely solvable, and I show you a little bit on how we did that later. Then also on formulating actions and changes in your organization, like from the questions you see, for example, there are some easy changing parts. For example, there are questions on like, are all your employees, do they have a minimum wage? So if you have a lot of interns and they don't get like a minimum wage, or you lean a lot of your interns, then it's not so much balanced. So you should have like good salaries basically for them, so that they are basically on like standard wages. In the Netherlands, it should be like standard, but we also see sometimes with clients that this is not always the case, but that is like an easy thing to change, or to part from that, or to create policies. But then there are other things, like for example, like how much kilograms of waste are you producing each month? That's a little bit more challenging to like see and to formulate like specific actions on how to do that or how to measure that. That's what we can help you definitely with. And then there is the inform and engage part. So you definitely have to engage and inform all the employees to like ideas and actions, how they can like help during the process, but also like create actions towards becoming a sustainable organization in general. But also on leadership, on the management, how can you engage all these people to like set goals and strategies and like really give them like a goal to work towards? That's a challenging part. And yeah, we help you with these actions on a short, mid, and long-term part, basically. And then definitely on the stakeholders, how can you engage them on creating a new vision and results, KPIs, for example, also to yeah, really know that sustainability is incorporated in all of that, because it's not only like a B Corp certification or a B Corp way basically of working, but really yeah, it should be integrated in the sustainable journey of your company. And that's not only reaching your certification. So within these yeah, challenges and yeah, parts basically where we can support you, and you definitely save time and money in that, because it's like a lot of time you have to put in to understand all these elements, but also to like get everyone on board and try to move basically. Do you have any questions about this B impact assessment, and how does it work, for example? For your idea, in the sense, like while I'm waiting a little bit, like each question within this B impact assessment has a different rating. So it could be 0.1 points, but it also could be like 10 points or 3.2 points. Like, so it's like really vague of like understanding where the biggest points basically come into play and how you can reach these points in general. Hertjan, just unmute you and just ask your question.
Yeah, hi, Skadi. I understand that these challenges are for, let's say, larger companies, but what if you're a smaller company? How does that work? Can you say something about that? Yeah. Less challenges, but probably other challenges.
Yeah, the challenges in that sense for smaller companies is definitely in the understanding. It's the same, like how is the process, how to understand the questions and where to get the information from, because sometimes the information is not there yet. For example, with specific policies you have to put together, or you're also in like a changing environment, for example, in a shared working space, or like you're switching offices, or you all work at home. That's a challenge definitely to yeah, for example, measure like waste or water usage, or yeah, therefore CO2 measurements. In that sense, it's harder basically to track on these parts, and we try to support you in that sense the most, to also like give advice like which shared working spaces are more more environmental friendly, or what kind of information or emails you can send basically to your facility management on like either to like motivate them to do more on that, or on yeah, asking them really specific questions. For example, we have also a requirement list for your service providers, so that you don't have to yeah, figure out like what is that, or how can I basically rate also my service providers on their sustainability.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Furthermore, just thinking, are there any other things also on like challenges? Yeah, in the challenges for the smaller companies is definitely also the amount of questions, in the sense of yeah, do you have already people or like 5 people who can divide this question through or with or not? That's definitely also something to like talk about, and what is the best way of like tackling then the amount of questions, for example. Yeah. Okay. Going to the next step. So general learning for preparing of the interview is that definitely start preparing evidence from the start. So we directly tell you in the beginning, create a folder with like the 5 topics, like the community, the workers, the governance, all of them. And while trying to fill in and answering the questions and searching for information, directly make screenshots, put links in these folders, basically, so that the person who's going into the interview has like a chance to keep up basically with the questions of the auditor, but also during the process of creating actions and yeah, changes within your company. It's important that there is really like a yeah, committed folder and like understanding that that you put that all in the same folder so that you can be prepared. Otherwise, it's like getting a big struggle in the end to have all the evidence and to get really the points. Otherwise, you lose points for nothing, which is would be a shame, basically. Yeah. And what we definitely advise as well, using the waiting time before the interview. So basically, like you can apply to become a B Corp when you're 1 year old. So as a company, when you exist for 1 year, and when you press to apply, so you can basically, before you are 1 year old, you can already work towards it. And then you can press, for example, the button, and then the waiting time starts. We advise, for example, to like, yeah, create an action list, and like that you know a little bit like what kind of actions are like long term or short term, and which are easier for you to reach. So that you know, for example, okay, these are easy things and we have to set them up. And going through the B impact assessment, we see we are at, for example, like 60 points or something. And but then we have like these months of like waiting in the queue. Then try to fill these questions in and know that you are at 80 points. But in this waiting line, basically, you can still adjust your answers on these questions. So just before the interview, before the audit conversation, they will freeze your account, and then you are not able to change these answers anymore. But be aware that when they freeze the account, that they really want to see also the evidence in really shortly. So be aware that when you apply and you think like, oh, this is really things that we could do, that you don't push it away for too long, because sometimes the waiting row is like going faster, and you have to definitely be prepared after half a year to like show what you filled in. It's not that they say like, oh, you filled something in and you're out when it's not right, but then while already checking by them and auditing you, they definitely check your website and what you put in the questions. So they definitely have a close look at what you're doing to yeah, really audit on like what you're doing and where you're going. So they also deduct directly points while they are auditing you and while you haven't even answered questions in the interview from you. So definitely don't make it too yeah, cutthroat, yeah, how you call it, like when you just like have 80 points and no point more. Just don't do it too tight. Just like really try to reach like 90 points or a little bit more, so that there is like a deduction rate of like 8-9 points, something about that, to like be sure that you have them basically on top of these 80 points, so that there's some wiggle room for you and you're not getting nervous in the interview or before that. And then keeping employees engaged. That means really ask them where they want to start and how. That basically when you have your action lists, engage all these employees, because in these waiting row, basically it could be that people are then like, oh yeah, I don't know like when this will happen and whether we get this. Is really an ongoing process, so it's important that you keep them engaged, try to interact with them on what they prefer to do as next actions, and what do they see as sustainable for your organization. It's always a really unique way and opportunity to talk to your staff and to your colleagues on how they see basically the sustainable journey of your company, because we hear it like stories, for example, or like talk to our clients, and they say like, yes, we wanted to be like really outgoing and wanted to be there and wanted to be open and sustainable and like new, and say like, we have unisex toilets, for example, and we have just vegan lunches, and they definitely got a lot of pushback on the unisex toilets and on the vegan lunches, because the Dutchies wanted to have their croquette for lunch, for example, once a week. So definitely engage with them and see where it's possible to like cut on the negative impact and create more positive impact together, basically. And definitely one way of that is to look at your action list and send out a survey, for example, to your organization. Say like, hey, these are the points we are working on. What do you think is important, and what is less important for you, and what do you want to, where do you want to engage, and where do you want maybe to help the organization to start with. Jan, I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks. What in your experience is the number of points that gets deducted generally?
Yeah,
that you have to take into account? Is that these 8 or 9 points that you mentioned?
Yeah, it's something around that. Yes, it's definitely, when you fill in the questions, for example, when they say like, hey, but when you set like crazy goals for yourself, like, oh yeah, we can reach that, and you interpret like a question a little bit more into your favor. You know that as an organization when you look through the questions and when we talked about it, basically. And when you say like, oh yeah, this could be a point and that could be a point, it's definitely an interpretation jungle a little bit in that sense. But you definitely know that that with some questions you are more on the like hoping that they interpret it in the same way as you do, but definitely it's like something about like let's say like around 10 points indeed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Or are there any other questions about the learnings and the way on how to prepare for the journey? Because it's definitely before basically the interview, it's important to have your evidence ready and really to show all the elements where you're a little bit vague about and don't know whether they interpret it the same way as you do, to have like some form of evidence on that. It's either like a document, a questionnaire, or like just have a written document of something, or like included into already existing documents like a code of conduct or HR agreements or something like that, that you just have it in there. Yeah. Then I want to show you a little bit more on like how we approach these challenges and learnings in our ways, in our consulting ways, and we created these 3 packages for our clients and for you, and that's the do-it-yourself package, the classic package, and the carefree package. The DIY package is really basically a collection of all our learnings and our tools, but really just in a written way. So you would directly get it online and you can go for yourself. We definitely advise that for companies who do the recertification phase, basically after the 3 years, and they see like, oh, I have to go through it again, and just want to have an overview of like what are good learnings and what where can I get the most points basically out, or for like really dedicated companies which are really already really far in filling in the B impact assessment and are quite sure that they understand where they are, but really like want to have the extra push on having enough points or like good elements on that. Our classic package really helps you in a data-driven way to achieve a short, mid, and long-term action list with clear actions, and also with which questions are you able basically to work on, and which are really like far away. Then we have the Carefree package. There we really also do it on a data-driven way with our tool, but also completely have all our tools in there and guide you completely towards the interview, the auditing part, which is not included in the classic package. There we basically give you the actions and you can do it yourself from there. But the Carefree package is really, gives you the full range and gives you also more time with us. So I will explain a little bit more on these parts and what they include. So the DIY package entails in the first step information and preparation basically of the project. So we have a questionnaire and exchanging information a little bit on like, hey, where you're standing, and give you a little bit on your introduction to prepare your teams and an overview of the tools. We give you also an information slide deck and requirements for your company, so that you definitely have a good set basically on like, where are you standing, and what is basically the legal structure of your organization, and have enough information to engage basically the C-level of your organization or other employees or co-workers from your organization, so that they know a little bit more on what B Corp is and what the journey basically looks like. But then we give you basically a deep dive in our tools and templates, so that you have our lessons learned with our clients in there, but also a general strategic overview. So a clever way of like, what are the action steps basically in achieving to become a B Corp. Then you have the complete policy package within the BIA questions, so the B impact assessment. There are a lot of questions of like, do you have a code of conduct? Do you have a breastfeeding policy? Do you have a whistleblower policy? Do you have a supplier policy? All of these policies where you probably think like, oh God, I don't know what should be in there. We put that all together for you and have them as a complete policy package basically for you, that you just have a template where you can fill in your company name and can go through the different parts and can really see what applies to your company, what supports your company, and how is it in your working place. For example, with a breastfeeding policy, like where is the fridge where the milk can be stored, or where a woman can go basically for breastfeeding. All that you want to have it set already, and you don't want to have these conversations, for example, when it's when a woman already was pregnant and is coming back, or when in other senses, when a supplier is not sustainable enough, and you will be questioned about it. That's definitely a good thing to have. Then you have a supplier evaluation, the criteria list, what I just talked about, so that you have that you can, for example, send it out and can say, hey, I want to check whether my suppliers are sustainable or not, and where they are standing, so that you have a proper engagement. These also give you extra points on the impact assessment. And then you also will get our unique data-driven tool to support you in your process of getting more points, so that you can have an overview with all the prioritizations. in that I will dive after the next step. Do you already have a question about the DIY package at the moment? No, I don't see any hands or questions rising in that sense, so I will move forward. Here I have an overview of the 6 steps of the classic and carefree B Corp journey package. Why do I put them both together? It's because the first 4 steps are the steps of the classic package, and the last 2 steps basically are the extra steps for the carefree package. The carefree package has more time involved also in the first 4 steps, but for the webinar now, I chose to put them all together so that you have an overview that can go and guide you basically through the different steps, and not double basically between the classic and the carefree package. So the first step on that is the project preparation, so that we send you a questionnaire on like where are you standing as a company, and what kind of information do we need to see what kind of sustainable actions or standard you have as a company. And we will have a deep dive interview with your organization, or with the project lead and the sustainability manager on what are challenges in your organization, how can we include them in this process, and yeah, to see how to best basically tackle the next steps within your organization to support you the best in your B Corp journey. The second step is the team kickoff and the impact areas. So we have an information session with a more detailed overview of like what the B Corp journey entails and what the next steps are completely about. And you can invite everyone in your organization to it. So you can also invite shareholders or other people who are interested in to see what your organization is going to do, so that you really create more awareness of what is going to happen for the people who are going to fill in the B impact assessment, but also for everyone around, because these people who fill it in, they will go to everyone in the organization and will ask for information or evidence or like help them to create positive impact in their organization. So it's important to show them and help them in the first steps and also answer all their questions. So we are absolutely here for that, and we'll provide this step basically, so that as the next step in this second process, or in the second process step, is to create these 5 people who are, or like these 5 ambassadors who will fill in the B impact assessment, or talk to the organization what is the best way basically to fill in the B impact assessment, so that these 5 people can be dedicated to either workers, community, governance, and the other elements basically of the B impact assessment, so that they know what they go towards and how to fill basically this B impact assessment in. The third step in that is when the basically the impact area leads, so these 5 people looked through the questions the first time through the B impact assessment and think like, oh, I really don't understand this, I don't know. So they give us an overview with all their questions. Like there's, as I said, there is no question too stupid, and it's really important to have no thought of like, oh, I know this, or really just like throw all your questions out there and show them to us, so we can actually help you with all of them and interpret them the right way, so that you can get extra points on all the different levels. So we will answer these for you. So you will send us the questions beforehand, and then you have a deep dive a Q&A session with us, with the impact leads, to understand that. And we will also support you in the next step to create really the actions from the steps. So after the third step, you fill in with all the 5 impact leads, all the B impact assessment, and try to see where you are. So you have a baseline measurement basically of your B Corp score. And then we create also our tool for you so that you see precisely on where you can prioritize actions and which are easier for you to reach. So we go into a session together with the B impact leads and the baseline measurement and really go through the questions and look what are actions which can be done within 3 months. What are actions which can be done within 6 months? And what are actions and questions that can be answered within 12 months or longer? So that you have an overview, okay, and a project basically timeline for yourself. Okay, this can be done. And after, for example, the first short-term actions, we can apply, for example, for the B impact, for the B Corp certification, and can then work on the mid and long-term goals. These are, for example, like is one example, but we would have a closing session because these are the steps of the classic package. We will have a closing session where we advise you on like where basically to go a little bit from here. In the Carefree package, you get in this first step more time with us, especially on questions before and after creating the actions. And you get like extra time to, for example, have more information, an extra information session for your company to create more awareness or answer extra questions from them. This would be the classic package, these 4 parts. To have like then as an ending the action list, really the roadmap towards becoming a B Corp. In this package is not included that you get the policies and supplier criteria list, but if you want them, you can directly book them extra. The good thing is if you book the classic package, you have 10% discount on the extra tools from us. So that's a good thing. Within the Carefree package, we have the following steps which provide and prepare you basically for the interview. For the interview, there are like 2 extra steps in that sense. It's one, support you with the tools and templates we have. So we have set up the prioritization tool we created for you, and you work through it. But then we have an extra session with you to complete the policy package. So we send you the policies, and then we have an extra question session about actions you already did and on how to fill in the policies. And if you have questions about the policies, that is an extra part basically in that. And also you get the supplier assessment criteria list and you can ask questions about it. And we help you to extend this list, for example, if that is necessary for your company. As a 6th step, it's improvements in evidence. So this step will be approximately when you are ready to nearly push the apply button basically to become a B Corp, and really to get together with the impact leads, impact area leads, the 5 ambassadors basically of your company, and to answer all the questions of your company for the B impact assessment and on maybe new questions which came up. Because in the B impact assessment, there are some questions, for example, like how much waste are you producing within your organization? When you say like, oh, we cannot say that, for example, then there are no additional questions. So therefore you cannot reach extra points. And when you are able to reach that and therefore like fulfilled some actions in there, these questions open up. So there are more questions opening up while basically you fulfilling and go through the impact assessment. And when you reach goals, basically, when you reach your action points. And in that last step, we help you really like go through these extra questions, look through the evidence as well, and really say, okay, all these questions are rightly interpreted. There is no highballing basically, or like thinking, oh, this is wishful thinking, we could get these points, but no, you really have all the right evidence for it, and you answered these questions correctly. So these are basically all the steps from the Carefree package, and that's really basically the whole procedure basically for your company to be completely supported. And the Classic package can be done within 2.5 months. We advise to do it as quickly as possible, because then you just have a baseline measurement and know basically what your actions are. And the step 5 and 6 can be done within 6 months, because like then you have like more time to work on your short-term action list, and really when you are basically ready to submit everything to get into the line, and basically on the waiting line for the interviews. So, and when you're having that ready, that depends a little bit, the 6th step basically, on when this interview will be, and when you need our help with this element. So these are our basically 3 packages. I put here the Classic and the Carefree package together. Do you have any questions about these steps, or challenges within that, or how a company or employees can tackle one or the other steps? I don't see any questions at the moment, so I will go further from that. So here you see the Classic and Carefree package journey together again, a little bit with like precisely hours and overviews on how these elements can be interpreted. I would go now and show you our prioritization tool, so that you have a better understanding of what is this about, because I said it a couple of times, but now you will be able to see it. So I will stop sharing my screen, and we'll open the prioritization tool for you. Give me a second that I'm able to share that with you. Okay. Yes, can you see my screen? I'm not seeing anyone complaining, so I guess you can see what I'm seeing. So this is one of our clients, Makers Unite, a circular clothing and merchandise company here in Amsterdam, and they have 103.96 points. There you see already the craziness of the points for like reaching 200 points, and you see basically on the left side are the points which the company has, and on the right side are the points which they are able to get. And we created a tool that basically shows you on and answering basically your questions you have during the journey. How are we performing? Where do we miss points? What are our main qualities? What are low-hanging fruit questions? Where can you get the most points? And which questions need written evidence, so that you have like an overview for it. So I will go through these elements with you. As you see here, you see the 5 different impact areas: environment, community, workers, governance, and customers. On the dark blue line, you can see how much points you can score. And on the turquoise line, you can see how much points you have in this area. So you directly see that not all the areas get the same points, but depending on your sector, and what your company does, you get different questions. So therefore, you can, for example, for your company, it can be more important that workers get like more points for you, and you have to work more on that. Since Makers Unite is a clothing company, it's really important for them, obviously, to go through the environmental steps more. So what we have here is really that you see the points really like seen on where can you get the most points and the least points, basically. So directly, let's switch to the missing points overview, because this is really interesting. Because what we did here is that you have here all the missing points together. In the B impact assessment, you have to scroll through all the questions and see where you still miss points. Here, you just have the points in one overview and can see what are the most points and which questions get the least points, or where you can score the least points. So you really literally can go through this list and for your company and can answer, is my company able to answer this question within like 3, 6, or 12 months? Or is that something I never could achieve? But that's completely fine if you're not able to reach these 9.6 points, but a lot of 2-point questions, there you get the same amount. Therefore, we wanted to get you a better overview on like how these points are and how you can engage basically your company in reaching these points, because it's not in general about reaching points, it's about becoming a sustainable company. And if it's like on like smaller steps on like getting there, so be it, perfect. And you just take these steps. It would be horrible if you would get hung up on like a question with 9.6 points and would think like, oh shit, I cannot do this. That would be horrible. So it's good to have a better overview of that. And you can click on one of these questions and can see what question it is, whether you gave an answer or not in that sense. That's not applicable, for example, or not available for this company here yet. So if it's available and they're able to show how much percentage it is, then they will get more points. But also, for example, for shareholders, it's interesting to see what are the qualities of your organization. And in general, it's nice to see what the qualities are. So we have the same for everything where you got actually points. Then we have an overview of all low-hanging fruit questions per impact area. So you can like go through it and can see these are all like questions which should be easier for you to reach, so you don't have a horrible time directly in the beginning to get some points for the short term. This is an overview what kind of evidence is needed for the questions. So, and for which questions, which evidence is needed. So that's really nice as well as an indicator already. And we gave you here a little bit an overview of business impact models, because like how your strategy is put together and how your company is put together also creates points for you. But here we have a short overview, which also on the B Labs website, so that you can have a little bit an idea on where they give you points on these elements. These are this is our prioritization tool, which we would create from your B impact assessment score, so that you have a unique overview of your points and your possible action steps to move forward. All our tools are also available on our website, movetoimpact.com, in our toolbox, so that you can have an overview on that, so you can check it out. And what are there any other questions about what I just told you, or the B Corp journey, basically, to kick it off for yourself? No. Okay, because then you can definitely contact me on skadi@movetoimpact.com and ask me any questions. I will send the recording and also the slides of this slide deck of this presentation today to you tomorrow morning, so that you have also like a little bit more an overview of what we talked today. And if you have any questions, as I said, Skadi Mobius at movetoimpact.com. I will put it also in the chat for you. So feel free to reach out. Looking forward to answer your questions in the future. And otherwise, I wish you guys an amazing B Corp journey, and hope this is something you're considering on your way to becoming a sustainable organization. You're welcome, guys. Thanks for your greetings in the chat. I wish you all an amazing Tuesday evening.